Assalamu alaikum students. This is the last part of post-structuralism, and we will discuss the third most important and significant philosopher, Michel Foucault. According to the critics, he was structuralist, post-structuralist, postmodernist, new historicist at the same time. You may say simultaneously he was able to possess the qualities of all these movements in him, or he was to some extent agreed with the ideas of one movement as well as with the second or third or fourth movement. But at the same time, he rejected all these titles because he didn't merely belong to one particular movement. That's why he was of the opinion that he was falling into all these movements simultaneously. Students, as you know, that the main word in post-structuralism is discourse. Basically, it is the main and theoretical significant part of Foucault's theory as well as in post-structuralist theory. Basically, discourse constructs the reality, uh, it constructs the relationship, it also shapes the relationships, or it also shapes the consciousness of the people. So the main attribution towards Foucault was discourse, because it was Foucault who explains how discourse is guided by people who are in power, ruling elite or state, and that through discourse of the power is exercised by them. You may go back towards the medieval age, which was the first age of history of English literature, and in that age Christianity was at the climax. That was the main and the major, the strongest part of society, and people believed in Christianity very much because they were only having that particular force in their life which was there to maneuver their life, which was there to rule their life. So when people scientific theory said that the sun is the center of the solar system, the people of medieval times didn't accept that theory, just because Christianity was in power, and Christianity was not at all favoring science at that time. This theory was not accepted by the people. Reason being, the people who were in power, who were ruling that country, and they were in favor of Christianity, and the voice of the saint was able to be titled as the voice of God. So what saint, what the pope or father was saying at that time, that was the main thing for the people. So it is, according to Foucault, it is only discourse which shapes the ideas, which shapes the reality, or which constructs the reality. Discourse constructs reality that we see or believe to be real. It maintains the slave owner relationship between state and people, and constructs and enslaves our consciousness. Meaning, the state is at the one side, the people are at the other side. So, what sort of that relationship between them is only because of discourse. Whether it is stability, whether it is instability, everything is being depended on discourse. He was interested in history only to know how discourse changes through the history, which he calls discourse change. Meaning, in the past, when Christianity or the church was everything, in Anglo Norman age, this concept of the people was changed to some extent, and afterwards, till the age of Chaucer, 14th century, um, church got corruption. It entitled as the that, like many other institutions of society, Christianity or as well as church was also filled with corruption. So by the time the history or the literature or any sort of school of thoughts are being changed just because of discourse. Sometimes state was considered to be the most powerful ruling aspect. When religion fails, then politics came into being. uh, Afterwards, we can also say that sometimes scientific theories, as the scientists were going to discover more and more things, and they were convincing people towards these theories, or these experimentation, or the results of those experimentations. just because of that discourse, because they strongly recommended all those theories as practical, as final, as well as being on the observation of human beings. Then they also experienced all these things. So every time it is only discourse which constructs reality. There are some other minor writers, but their role is not at all minor. And the names of those writers are Kathy Acker, Jan Baudrillard, Judith Butler, Felix Guattari, Sarah Kaufman, Philippe Lecourt-Lebarth, Jan Francois Loitert, Jan Luc Nancy, and Bernard Stiegler. Now we are recapitulating what we have read in all these slides in the complete lecture or in the whole lecture. What we have read, just recapitulation. Barth's essay, The Structural Analysis of Narrative, which published in 1966, methodological and forbiddingly technical image, music, and text, presented in 1979. Random commentary on narrative arranged alphabetically, and then in 1973 the player of the text was presented. All these essays are based on the deconstructive reading of the text, in which the reader is getting a particular significant, most important role. But death of the author, which presented in 1968, was crucial one, which claims the absence of an author as to decipher a text. So, endless free play of meanings and the escape from all form of textual authority was licensed in post-structuralism. Basically, the free play, the action, the all these things, structure, sign, and play, which Derrida gave us the idea, and afterwards it was also focused by Barthes. So these were the main things which were licensed in post-structuralism. Barthes declares radical textual independence, that the work is not determined by intention or context, but text is free by its very nature of all such restraints. That we are not here to create context, we are not here to discuss it historically, and we are not here to discuss biographically, meaning what is the biography of the writer. We are not at all concerned with it so far as post structuralism is concerned. Derrida's Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of Human Sciences, which was presented in 1966 at Johns Hopkins University. It decenters the intellectual universe. Absolute center was rejected, meaning there is no absoluteness, there is no fixation so far as the center is concerned. Play means liberation from all traditional and authorial and central points, meaning you are not at all only concerned with author, you are not at all only concerned with one main fixation, because universe is not at all having that center, it is decentered now. Then the statement of Derrida, which has been highlighted many times in Of Grammatology, which is his main book, that there is nothing outside text, everything is present in it, that we don't need to go further or go beyond the text. No fixed points were there, and universe was decentered and relativistic, which we have discussed earlier in part 2 of post-structuralism, that there are different historical examples like First World War, Holocaust. The scenario of the whole world, the mentality of the people was completely changed. As before World War, people didn't think even about that global war, that sort of war can also be happen. No, not at all. It was not the opinion of the people, but all the time they thought that these weapons which they are going to prepared, these are only for their self defense. But on the contrary, one nation, if it is going to defend itself by using those weapons, the other nation definitely and accurately will do that thing in that particular purpose. But one nation will take it for granted that they are only using for self defense, but the other nation will take it as destruction. Same is the case with the Holocaust. And then scientific examples like scientific discoveries, that before scientific discoveries are age of reason or reasoning or logical interpretation of the things or ideas or observations, there were not at all the decentralization in the world. Um, Now there are three different major writings or books of Derrida which proved the main point for decentralization. Number one is of grammatology. Number two, speech and phenomena. Number three, writing and difference. These are three major books by Derrida. So far as deconstruction is concerned, and you know that deconstruction is all the time related to decentralization, which shows reading text against text itself. That text is complete in itself, it has different things, it has different entities in it, so we should take text as the main entity, and then by decentralizing it the point will be clear. There are some major searches which structuralists do as well as the post structuralist searching. um, for example, we may quote before going further that structuralists look for such features in the text as parallels, echoes, reflections, and so on. The effect of doing this is often to show a unity of purpose within the text, as if the text knows what it wants to do and has directed all its means towards this end. Parallels, echoes, balances, viewpoint, tense. And on the contrast, we can say that post-structuralist or deconstructionist aims to show that the text is at war with itself. It is a house divided and disunified. So this is very beautiful, that text is a house which is divided, which is disunified, which is not in its proper shape. So it is there for contradictions and paradoxes. There are different shifts, there are different breaks so far as tone of post-structuralist text is concerned. And viewpoint, tense, time, person, and attitude, these are the same things in these two major movements. Then structuralism is based on, or it seeks for, reflections and repetitions. There are repetitions in the same things. Symmetry, that they all the points are going to be uh, written or jotted down in the form of symmetry of ideas. That ideas are not at all going to break into shifts, or gaps are not being shown by the writers. Then contrast, like binary opposition or the theory of pairing opposites. And patterns, different patterns are set just to learn the language or to understand meaning. For example, the theory of sign, signifier and signified. Effect, to show how textual unity is being presented by the writer. If we go back towards Aristotelian time, when he talked about the unities, so far as the idea of Aristotle related to tragedy was concerned, unity of time, action, and place. Same is the case with that textual unity must be there, because it will affect the reader's mind. And then to show textual coherence, proper beginning, proper middle, and proper end. This is the structure. Are all the time structuralists are seeking for these points. Whereas, by contrast, we can say post structuralist searches are based on conflicts, absence and omissions, by absence of the author, omission of the author, that we are only giving the major role to reader. Absence and omission of history or biographical context of the writers. Linguistic quirks, there is some sort of oddity, there is some sort of gaps, there is some sort of strange or queer happenings so far as post-structuralism is concerned, because it is non-consistent, it's all the time changes. There is aporia in post-structuralism. Aporia basically is based on a doubt. a logical disjunction in a text. There are, as I told you earlier, that there are lots of gaps. Gaps are intentionally left by the writer or the author. That's why aporia is also found out in post structuralism. What is the effect of all these things? To show textual disunity. In structuralism, we are all the time concerned with the unity of text, but now textual disunity. Okay, ji. Last but not the least, what do the post structuralists do? They read the text against itself so as to expose what might be thought of as the textual subconscious, where meanings are expressed which may be directly contrary. The next point is the fix upon the surface features of words, similarities in sound, the root meanings of words, metaphoric ones, and foregrounding of these to get overall meaning. So, what is their next job? Their next job is the task is that by fixing upon the surface features of the words similarities in sound, the words which are similar in sound, and then the root meanings of words, what are the meanings of all the words, then metaphorically the words are different, the meanings are different, and literal meanings are different. And afterwards, if they foreground any idea, any point, so what sort of meaning they will get. And finally, by mixing of all these things or applying all these things, they will get overall meaning. Third point is they seek to show that the text is characterized by disunity rather than unity. That all the time text must not at all be unified in all aspects, but it must be disjointed. They concentrate on a single passage and analyze it so intensively that it becomes impossible to sustain a univocal reading, and the language explodes into multiplicities of meaning, multidimensional meaning, metaphorical, literal, etymological meaning of the words. And so far as the history of creating meaning, there are lots of like synonyms. One word can stand for many words. They look for shifts and breaks of various kinds in the text and see these are evidence of what is repressed, what is glossed over, what is passed over in silence by the text. There is some sort of silence which has been found out by the reader, and it looks most of the times that the author is really trying to be silent, or he has not given us the main idea or the real idea which he has started from the beginning. Now he is going towards some gap, he is creating some sort of shift of our attention from one aspect to another aspect, from one word to another word. So this is that there is not at all only uh, to highlight all the things, but to show that there is a sort of break and which is being passed over. These discontinuities are sometimes called fault lines, a geological metaphor referring to the breaks in rock formations which give evidence of previous activity and movement. Fault lines, meaning a sort of which considered to be or which titled as gap or some omission or some sort of things which being skipped. All these are considered as fault lines when we are going to analyze the text completely, or after analysis we are just there to give our opinion, then we will call all these things as fault lines. And geologically there has been used an example, a metaphorical example, that when a rock breaks into formation, it gives or it sorry it creates some sort of lines on it. So this is all about post structuralism, and now there are some questions. Just have a look on it, and hopefully you will be able to attempt all these questions. Thank you very much, and good luck to you all.